Today we will talk about Schaumann's 2009 article Who Measures the World? Alexander von Humboldt's Chimborazo Climb in the Literary Imagination. Humboldt's legendary 5-year research trip to the Spanish colonies in the Americas began in 1799 in the Canary Islands and continued to Venezuela, Cuba, Colombia, Ecuador, Peru, Mexico, and the United States. Unlike previous forays to the New World, Humboldt's expedition was independently financed, approved by a special travel permit granted after an audience with Spanish King Carlos IV, and not bound to any immediate colonial, national, economic, or political aim. Rather, Humboldt's wanderlust, with no preset agenda or prescribed travel route, was steeped in the romantic ideal of travel and exploration. Thanks to the generous inheritance from his mother, Humboldt was able to realize a lifelong dream, breaking away from military-focused Prussia, from aristocratic bourgeois family expectations, a predetermined professional career, heterosexual gender roles, and his clinical depression. Yet, it was precisely the escape from a safe European environment that ultimately guaranteed Humboldt's triumphant return to Paris in 1804, enabling thousands of Europeans to vicariously enjoy his risks and adventures. Humboldt carefully crafted illustrations, scientific reports, and adventurous tales of his expedition to the Americas, and they contributed to a growing European fascination with the ascending heights previously thought inaccessible and fueled the public consumption of such exploits. On June 23, 1802, Alexander von Humboldt, Carlos Montúfar, Aimé Bonpland, and 3 guides attempted to climb the Andean peak Mount Chimborazo, which at 6,267 meters was thought to be the highest mountain in the world. As part of his research on vegetation zones and volcanism, Humboldt climbed several volcanoes such as Pico del Teide on Tenerife in 1799, Silla de Caracas in Venezuela in the 1800s, Puracé in Colombia 1801, and Antisana, Pichincha, Cotopaxi, and Chimborazo in Ecuador in 1802. These mountains were climbed in small groups with different explorers and local guides, but without mountaineering boots, proper attire such as gloves and parkas, or any climbing equipment. On Mount Chimborazo, Humboldt's team encountered adverse conditions and was famously stalled at an impassable cleft of rock and ice, forcing them to turn around approximately 1,000 feet below the summit. Yet, the climb itself, as well as the fact that no person had ever before reached such heights, approximately 19,300 feet, sparked the imagination of contemporary and future scientists, artists, travelers, and laymen alike. Humboldt himself was the first to partially satisfy such curiosity and simultaneously generate more. In his monumental work on the American journey, Voyage aux régions équinoxiales du Nouveau Continent, written in French after his return to Paris and published in 29 volumes between 1807 and 1838, Humboldt used Chimborazo in many images that depict the geography, geology, and botanical life of mountains. Yet the work disappointed those who had hoped for a detailed narrative of the Chimborazo climb. Not only was the overall description of the American journey published years later than the illustrations, but Humboldt never completed Volume 4, which would have included his Chimborazo climb. To Humboldt, his failed climb seems to have remained an ambiguous experience, at once triumphant, troublesome, and transgressive. Perhaps his search for an appropriate narrative form and his delay in publication reflects the difficulty of describing a mountain he viewed as both an object to be measured and a sublime force, a mountain that later came to symbolize both his failures and the height of his fame. It is these gaps, contradictions, and inconsistencies that remain unmeasured in the literary representations of Humboldt's climb, and indeed Humboldt himself.